both seniors. I know many of us want jobs, but I see many of my classmates, including myself, asking ourselves, well, should I continue studying and then go into the workforce or use the summers, but then continue studying? In your case, obviously, you said that you weren't really sure about what you wanted to do, but you kept on studying. So was your sort of prediction or philosophy, let me continue studying and then I'll find something? Or did you vaguely think, well, I might want to do teaching or academia? What was your approach to continuing your studies?
So it's an excellent question. So I can talk about myself and then I can talk more broadly about how somebody else might make a decision along those lines. So in my case, I grew up in India, got my undergraduate degree in India. And at that time, I think the best opportunities were, I was always interested in doing a little bit more than my undergraduate degree. Mm-hmm. And the best opportunities lay in the United States. So for me, it was not a very hard decision to decide to go to graduate school and get a PhD. Mainly because back in my day, to apply to graduate school, if you said I wanted to do a master's, chances are you wouldn't get supported. And there is no way I could have afforded to pay for any education in the United States. I came from a fairly modest middle-class family in India, and I mean, I always joke that I landed in the United States with a one-way ticket and $770 in my pocket. True story.
Wow.
So that was it. That's the best I could do, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, in many ways, it was not a very conscious decision, but more like this was probably the only way I could continue to study and at one of the best places in the world, in the United States. So that was an easy decision for me. After that, while I was doing my PhD, I had a summer job at Bellcore. Back then, it was AT&T Bell Labs had spun out something called Bellcore. So I did some summer jobs, and I realized that I didn't quite like working in industry. I really liked the academic atmosphere. I've always enjoyed teaching. I was a TA, teaching assistant at Stanford. I taught some classes in the summer. I just loved it. So I thought, hey, this may be the vocation for me. So that was how I made my decision. So some of it was out of necessity, but eventually the academic path that I chose obviously was by the fact that I liked it, almost by elimination.
So it's like following your passion, discovering.
So what I'm trying to say from that is that to decide to go either take a job directly or get a master's and get a job or get a PhD, it's an intensely personal decision. So it all depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
Number one. And number two, it's also driven by external conditions, which is how's the job market? Mm-hmm. So the joke that we have here in academia is that when unemployment is high, our master's students' numbers go up. No, it's no joke. It's true.
Yeah.
There is an inverse cyclical sort of a thing, right? Where when that one goes, so you're out of phase, right? Mm-hmm. So when job market's good, graduate enrollment drops and goes the other way around. So there are external factors determining your path forward as well. But if you're coming back to what you want to do, so you need to decide, right? So there are some areas where you can immediately get a job after you graduate and you can live happily ever after. And there's nothing wrong with that, because once you get an engineering degree, you can get an entry-level job, making 70, 80K. And then if you want to do management, you can do that too. A lot of our alumni, the successful ones, have made money in one way or the other. They're actually investors. They make venture, those are the ones with real money. Mm-hmm. So you can do that. You can become a lawyer. You can be a pre-med. So you can do all kinds of things with an undergraduate degree in engineering. And to a person or alumni tell me that they still, whatever success they have, they attribute it to the engineering degree, because they say you taught us how to think.
Yes.
And how to put framework and structure on things. So there's nothing wishy-washy. We always put very quantitative ways of, we always have a quantitative way of looking at things. And so that's what they say. So I think that's important, right? So you can immediately get a job and you can then find your way in industry. You can be a technical person, go deep in it. You can be a VP for sales if you like. You can do any of those things. Now, in some areas, it might be worthwhile to get a little bit deeper into the technical side of things. Well, then you get a master's. Or you can do an MEM thing that we have here, right? You can do an MEM degree here. So you can do all kinds of things that, and again, that depends on how you feel. Are you comfortable? Do you have a nice job lined up? Or do you want to maybe spend one more year doing something more and getting maybe a better job? With a master's, I think it does make financial sense, because you do get an increment, and I think in the long run probably washes out. Doing a PhD is a completely different ballgame, because I can't argue that doing a PhD would eventually, your net earnings over a lifetime will be maximized by doing that. you do it because you really enjoyed research, or you want to work in research all your life at a lab or as a faculty member. A PhD is an entry level requirement. You need to have a doctorate. So therefore, it's almost it's very personal. But then, depending upon where you see your career ending up at, you may want to take different paths.